Happy Sunday! 5 tests that Abraham had to go through and what lessons we can learn from them. We read Genesis 12 and 13, and that's the story of Abraham. And the 5 tests that Abraham had to go through in these chapters. So number one, in Genesis 12, verse 1, God said to Abraham, leave your nation, leave your people, leave your family. So it was a test of separation. God needed Abraham to leave the familiar. There was an identity transformation that God needed to happen in the life of Abraham so that he could take him to the promised land that he had set for him and his family. Number two, Genesis 12 verses 10 is a test of endurance. And so Abraham is here. He has this wonderful promise of how he's going to be so rich and so great and so influential. And guess what happens next? There was a famine, right? And so he goes from promise to scarcity, and he had to endure. So sometimes God might give us wonderful promises, and the next thing that happens is like there's failure, or there is loss, or there's something terrible that doesn't look anything like the promise. We just need to continue to hold on to our faith like Abraham. Number 3, Genesis chapter 12, verses 11 to 13. We see that when there was a famine and Abraham went down to Egypt, so there was a test of fear. So there was famine. Abraham was like, we need to go and find food. And so they went to Egypt because apparently Sarah was a beautiful woman, which, is great. And he told her that, look, if we go to Egypt, the men are going to want you. So tell them that you're my sister, or else they're going to kill me if they find out that I'm your husband. And apparently, really, Sarah was his half sister. So it was a half truth. It was a lie. Basically, there's no half truth. It's either the truth or a lie. So it told Sarah to tell them that it was his sister. And she did tell them that Abraham was her brother. And then guess what happened? Pharaoh, the king, takes Sarah as his wife. And then God is like, appears to Pharaoh in a dream and he's like, you better not touch that woman. She's married to that man who is a prophet. Call him to pray for you, because God had sent a curse on the home of Pharaoh because he had taken Sarah as his wife when Sarah was Abraham's wife. But they had told him that she was his sister, but God appeared to Pharaoh in its dream. And then Pharaoh calls Abraham. He's like, why did you do this to me? You want to kill me? You want God to kill me? And so Abraham explains. And then instead of Pharaoh to get mad and kill him, guess what he does? He tells Abraham to pray for his family so that the curse will be lifted. And 2, he blesses Abraham with all kinds of blessings and gifts. And then, the funny thing, the next chapter, it says that Abraham was a rich and wealthy man. Before then, he never said that Abraham was rich and wealthy. All right? Okay, so that's number 3, the test of fear. Number 4, the test of prosperity. So now Abraham was rich and wealthy and influential, but he doesn't leave God. Sometimes the test of prosperity can be harder than the test of hardship, because a lot of times when we have our needs met, it's like, what do I need God for? Right? But Abraham stayed true to the cause. And I want to say something quickly in the previous one, the test of fear. God's covenant does not need perfect people for it to manifest. So Abraham didn't make a mistake, but God in his mercy still showed him mercy. And he became a wealthy man from that experience. So coming back to the test of prosperity, some of us, when we get rich and we get, all this wealth, we desert God and desert our faith. But no, not Abraham. Abraham held on to his faith because he knew that the reason he became a wealthy man was because of God. There was no other reason. And then number 5, chapter 13, verse 9, the test of generosity. So Abraham had his nephew Lot with him. And so they had both become so wealthy that their headsmen started to fight amongst each other. And so Abraham is like, you know what? This land is not going to take all of us anymore. We need to separate. And so he tells Lot to look at the land and choose wherever he wants to go. It says, if you go left, I will go right. If you go right, I will go left. So apparently Abraham, who was supposed to be the patriarch, who had all the rights to choose the land first that he wanted to go, he let it go. He was generous and said, you know what? I don't care about, choosing the best or the fanciest of the lands. I care about the promise of God, which is yes and amen, which will take me anywhere that I go. I will be prosperous. And so Lot looks up and chooses the land that was beautiful and flourishing with water and milk and honey, which was Sodom. So he definitely chose wrong. Those are my 5 lessons for this today. The 5 tests that Abraham had to go through. It also shows that we will also go through tests in our own lives. But how will we show up? How will we stand? Are we going to stand for what is right, stand for our faith, stand for truth, and trust God in all of these situations? That's it for me today. I hope you have a wonderful Sunday and a wonderful week ahead. And I'll see you again next Sunday. Goodbye.